Hello and welcome to another day on Cornwall Pocket Farm, where I try and figure out how to live sustainably or more sustainably on 300 square metres in the city. It's another one of my capsule wardrobe videos because my trip is fast approaching. I think, when I looked at the calendar, we've got about 4 weeks left. So yeah, not much time left. This is this week's video, of course, is the last component, the last piece in the Carmen suit. That was originally suit B. It was actually quicker than I anticipated to make, barring a couple of issues. As always, whenever I make something, there's a few issues, isn't there? So there were a couple of little hiccups, shall we say, that I had to sort of work my way through and be very creative about solving. But anyway, those I did manage to sort it out, and yeah, and I'm pleased with the result. I think it will actually also go very nice with the Julie skirt, so pleased with that. It was interesting actually, the combination of the neck of the Carmen top and then the Carmen jacket as well, because of course the original Carmen top, I sort of designed it to be a little bit differently, and then if you remember looking back at that video, I actually sort of tossed out the original sort of drapey front that I was going to do and went with a sort of a male collar, which sort of wasn't my original plan. What that has meant is that when I've made the jacket to go over the top, that sort of silhouette and the way it works together is not as I originally intended. So there's a couple of different ways that I've styled the collar on the top so that it goes with the jacket. You'll see in the reveal that I've actually styled the collar of the top in two different ways. The first time is just sort of up like I had it in the actual Carmen top reveal, and then the other way with the jacket I actually turned it over so it sort of became a little tiny wing collar, which I thought was quite nice, and actually sort of meant that the collar of the jacket was what you saw more than the collar of the top. But anyway, have a little look at the reveal and see which way you like the Carmen top with the jacket. So this is the last piece in the Carmen suit, and technically that's the end of the capsule wardrobe. That's the end of the three suits, the choli top and the sort of dress that I'm going to wear to my daughter's Western wedding. That's the complete capsule that I originally planned. Of course, I also bought some extra fabric for the trousers, and that's actually what I have on my table at the moment. Slightly adapting a pattern of a pair of trousers that I have made multiple times, 4 or 5 times. So hopefully it shouldn't be too hard. She said, that's my new catchphrase actually. Shouldn't be too hard. So yeah, so that's what's on my table at the moment, is the pair of trousers, and then I am also planning a few extra tops and things like that. So that will probably be in a separate video, and I'll talk about the fabrics that I've got for some tops, what my plan is around that, and how I'm going to squeeze it into the last 3 or 4 weeks left before my trip. But anyway, that's for another video. This video is all about the making of the Carmen jacket. So the plan with the Carmen jacket, initially, should we say, was to do the same sort of overall top part, the sort of the grown-on sleeve type thing, the same lapel collar as I did for the Audrey jacket. But what I thought I would do for the Carmen is actually bring it down and have a little bit of a sort of a peplum, and maybe have like a few pleats in the peplum to sort of mimic the sort of the waterfall side of the skirt. So what I've done is I've redrawn out the pattern pieces, essentially roughly the same as for the Audrey, but then I've just added on a piece at the bottom, an extra piece at the bottom to sort of to make the peplum with. What I've decided to do is I'll work out the pleats, which are going to be on the front, and the pleats on the back, once I have got it all made up, just like I did in the Audrey. You remember with the Audrey I made it and then I worked out the darts once it was made up. So for this one I'm going to make up the pleats essentially once it is made up. But now I've come to put it on the fabric. There's a little bit of an issue because I have pieces of fabric left. I have 2 pieces which are leftover pieces from the makes of the skirt and the top. So I've got a bit here, which is not very big. I have another piece
here, which is just slightly out of shot, but I don't know, I hope you can see it. There's just here that's a little bit bigger. And then there's this bit, which is the piece that my daughter gave me, the leftover piece that she had. So the pattern pieces, I've realised, are quite large, and because I have these 3 small pieces, I'm having a bit of difficulty getting it onto the fabric. This linen fabric that I have is really quite narrow. I've not actually measured how wide it is. So what is the width of this fabric? Let me just have a little look. It's only about 115 wide. The problem with that, of course, is that you bought 3 meters of the fabric, but because it's not very wide, overall you don't have actually that much fabric. Basically, my pattern pieces don't fit on the fabric that I have. That's the bottom line. They don't fit on the fabric. So I have 2 choices. I can either shorten the sleeves, or I can go back to the drawing board, completely redraw the patterns and make a jacket that has a set-in sleeve. That's a lot of work. So I've already spent time redrawing these patterns. I didn't show you because essentially it was pretty similar. I mean, basically I just used the Audrey pattern and then made some adjustments and extended it so that it will go further down onto my hips. So I would have to go back to the drawing board, start again and work out a set-in sleeve jacket, which could cause issues because the whole idea was that these jackets are supposed to go over the under tops that I've made, and the tops that I've made so far, 2 of them, the Audrey top and also the Carmen top, both have grown on sleeves. They're short sleeves, but they're still grown on sleeves. So I sort of wanted a little bit more room sort of here to accommodate whatever I'm putting underneath the jackets. So at the moment, I think what I'm going to do is cut them short on the sleeve. So they'll probably only come down to about there, but I do want them a bit longer. So what I'll probably do is cut them short, cut the pieces out like that, and then further down the track, come up with some innovative sort of cuff-based sleevey thing. Which of course I have no idea what it is at the moment, but where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't really want to go back to the drawing board. So I think I'm going to carry on with what I'm doing, but I'm going to make the short sleeves shorter. And then I'm just going to do something on the end. Something we're not quite sure what it is yet. But yeah, we'll do something on the end, I think. Because I have lots of bits of fabric which I could piece and do something on the end. I just need to make it look like it's on purpose rather than the fabric was too small and I couldn't cut the sleeves to the right length. Yeah. But I'm going to think about that further down the track. I think what I'm going to do first is just cut out these main pattern pieces. There are actually only 4 pattern pieces for this jacket because I have the back and the front. Then of course there's the lapel and there is the collar. Now these are straight out of the Audrey pattern pieces. I'm reusing the same pattern pieces. So there are only 4 pieces and there's plenty of room for these little bits on here. And then we're just going to have to be creative with what happens on the cuffs. Okay, so it's Saturday morning. I have been working on the Carmen jacket sort of in evenings and bits and pieces of time that I've had. So I've made a bit of progress. I've joined the shoulder seams all the way down that sleeve and also on that sleeve. I have put the neck, the collar piece together and sewn that on. And then I've interfaced the facing pieces and I was just putting those on and I've realised, can anybody see the fault there? I extended the length of the jacket because I wanted to come further down a little bit onto my hips, but I didn't extend the facing piece. Yeah, bit rubbish, but hey, that's what happened and there we are. So when things go wrong, I tend to just sort of put them down and walk away and hopefully something will come to me. So overnight, in preparation for the big weekend of sewing again, I was thinking, what can I do about this?
And I was watching some videos last night of sort of where people were looking through old magazines and lookbooks and old sort of pattern catalogues and those types of things. And there was a whole bunch of gorgeous 40s and 50s sort of outfits. And one of the things I spotted was that some of the jackets have sort of curved fronts so that they sort of curve up here. And I thought, oh, that would be rather nice. And it would fix my problem, which is the fact that this is a bit too short. Just to do a straight down and then a square bottom like I did for the Audrey. The other thing that I have done already is I sewed in the darts on the back, and then I thought it would be rather nice, because the back of the Carmen outfit is really rather plain, because there isn't a slit in the straight skirt or anything. There's just that little what's it called, a welt pocket, the little welt pocket that I put in the back. But of course probably the jacket will cover that, I'm not really sure at this point, but anyway, there's no detail on the back at all. So I thought what I could do is stop the stitching for this dart at the waist, and then after that it becomes a pleat. So I'm really pleased. I don't know, hopefully you can see that. I've got a bit of a sun issue. In the morning the sun comes into this room, so hopefully that isn't shining too much on that item. And you can see that I've got the darts coming down and then I've just let them be loose, and basically now they've created a little sort of a pleated area at the back, which I really quite like. And because I have pleats here, I wasn't going to do a facing, I was just going to do a really simple hem, probably just a bias binding sort of hem, just to sort of simply finish the end. Remembering these jackets I'm making are not very structured jackets, they're not lined or anything, they're more like a shirt, like a little shirt that you would throw over something, just to protect your shoulders from the sun, or just for that little bit of extra warmth, just to cover up a little bit. So there's no lining, there's no fanciness going on. So I am actually doing French seams all on the inside of this so that it's all neat. So that's good on the back, but obviously if I do a curve on the front, I don't think just something like a bias bound hem, or even just a turning up the hem, I don't think it's going to be enough structure to really hold it neatly. I think it would probably get a bit thin looking, a bit wafted, probably wave a little bit. So I thought I need to have a facing. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is do a curved front and then do a facing on the bottom half of just the front piece, and then stitch that into the side seam, and then at the back have a simple hem. I hope that'll look okay. I mean, generally you see somebody's front or you see their back. I don't know if you looked at the difference on the side, whether you would really notice the different in treatments, but that's what I'm going to do. So at this point, I should say at this point, because often things change. So the upshot of that is that I will take this facing off for now. I will do a curve on here of some description and create a facing piece to go along the bottom, and then that facing piece will basically stitch into this facing piece, so that then I can use the facing as one long facing piece. How many times can you say facing piece? Obviously quite a lot. So that's my plan at the moment. I haven't done the side seam yet, but I might actually just pin that up now, because the other thing I haven't done yet is I haven't worked out the darts on the front of this jacket, and I want to get it to fit really nicely. So I might even stitch it together properly actually, because I can still get at all of the neck and the collar and everything. I don't need it to be flat, and I just think it will be easier to work things out if I already have the shaping and the fit of the jacket correct. Let's try that. Okay, so I've put a small curve in the bottom of that, and I've pinned in some of these darts. Please ignore that. These are the facings that I've just casually thrown them over my shoulder until I'm ready for the facing part. I'm trying to take as few clothes off as possible because, of course, it's quite cold now. So every time I do this and have to put lightweight summer clothes on, it's really quite chilly. But anyway, trying to take as few clothes off as possible, I have just put my pinafore dress down a bit. But I think that's possibly working. I'm tempted just to pinch those darts in just a little bit more, actually, because it's still reasonably sort of loose. Obviously, this will be a little shorter once I get the facing on. But yeah, maybe I'll take those darts just a little bit, pinch them more in a little bit at the waist, I think. I'll play around with it a little bit more before I stitch them in properly. Yeah, sleeves are quite short, as you can see, but I don't mind it actually being that short. I think I could just make that work. Obviously the back side is a little bit shorter. Yeah, I think with a cuff, they might actually be okay. I think we're making progress. I do. Yeah. Now I have cut off a curve at the bottom here. You can see that actually the facing will match up quite nicely when I put in a piece for the curve. So pleased with that. Hopefully that will resolve that issue. I just need to cut the facing piece, and then obviously I'll need to cut interfacing as well and interface the facing. And then I can try and get all the facings together and stitch it onto the jacket. So I think, yeah, I think we're almost there. Something else will fall off, but anyway, hopefully I have managed to get the jacket fitting reasonably well. I have managed to hopefully fix this short jacket collar facing problem. And yeah, I think we're on track again. Yay! Okay, so Sunday morning now. I left it last night having got the facings on. I'm nearly there, to be honest. It's quite surprising how quickly this has gone together, even though there were a couple of hiccups, shall we say, partway through. So I've got the facings on. I'm now actually just putting a little bit of bias binding. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just pinning the bit of bias binding on. I had to make a slight, I've stitched the facing on, but I need to make a slight adjustment at the bottom because where the facing came into the biased bound back part, that's difficult to say, the biased bound back part, it sort of had a little bit of a kink, you know, it had a little bit of an angle, so I wanted to make it a smooth line. So I had to unpick this a little bit, just a couple of inches, and now I'm just smoothing that curve around, doing the bias binding edge, and then onto the cuffs. Now the cuffs, I have actually put this jacket on to see how it's sitting, and I'm quite pleased with it. It's working quite nicely, I think, apart from the, as I say, this little kink that I'm just resolving now. And looking at the cuffs, they actually come down a reasonable length. They come down to about there, just below my elbow. So I'm actually thinking what I might do is just mimic what I did on the Julie shirt. Do you remember the sleeves came down to about here and I wanted them a bit longer, and I put on that little sort of cuff part on the Julie, and then I could fold it back or down. I think that would look really nice, and it's very simple because I've done it before. Did I make a pattern for that piece? Probably not. It's just a rectangle basically that I just fold in half and then and stitch on. So it's not going to be that hard, I don't think. Touch wood. There's my catchphrase again. It should be fairly easy, I think. But I just need to straighten up these sleeves because, as you can see, they're a little bit all over the place. There's a longer bit and a shorter bit and all the rest of it. So I just need to even that up. And then I shall add on this cuff piece with a slit. And I will, again, like the Julie, I'll just put the slit down on the side here, I think. I can just check on the Julie actually where the slit happened, because I remember rotating it a bit to get the slit in the right place. So I will do the same on here. And then it's just hand sewing and buttons. Now, buttons. I'm not sure about the buttons. Let me just show you. I've gone into my stash
And I have found some buttons that I think will work. Let me just show you and you can see what you think. So I have these buttons in my stash. And I think they look quite nice. They've got a little sort of vintage vibe to them, and the gold and the red goes really quite nicely. The only problem I have with this is that I don't usually wear gold very much. I tend to wear silver jewellery, and the buttons on the Audrey are white. I have tried white buttons on here. I've got a couple of different button options in white, but I just felt that, it worked really well on the Audrey when I had white buttons, but I just think that looks a bit, I don't know, it's not working for me. So that's the white option. I have some sort of red buttons in my stash, but they're not, none of the red buttons are the right colour red. And if it's a little bit off, it just looks a bit weird. And so then, like blue buttons, green buttons, they're not going to look right. I tried black buttons, but that doesn't look good. So I think the gold does look quite snazzy. I think it does look quite nice. The only thing, as I say, is that I don't wear a lot of gold. And I don't know if there's gold anywhere else in the capsule. There is some sort of beige and yellow and things in my floral print, of course. But I'm going to hold this as a backup option. There is a sort of a small sewing supply shop in our little local cluster of shops. So I'll pop in there and see if they have anything better. But failing that, these ones will do, I think. I've found as I've gone further down the journey of creating this capsule wardrobe, of course what I'm doing is reusing elements from previous projects, because that really is making a sort of a cohesive whole, if you like. I've looked at a bunch of runway shows and all that sort of stuff for inspiration as well, and what I've noticed is that the haute couture people, what they do is they use the same thing again in a slightly different way, and then they mix different things up. But basically it's the same sort of motif, should we call it, the same sort of design, just keeps coming in slightly different ways. And that's how this is working out, I have to say. So the further down the track I go, almost the easier things are becoming, because I'm like, oh, I'll just use the cuff off that again. Oh, I'll just add this in. And then I'll make a slight change and the fabric is different. I have finished the Carmen jacket. And a bit like the Carmen skirt, there's something I'm not quite happy with. I have finished the cuffs, so hopefully you can see if I just show this. So the cuffs, I sort of did a little bit of a curve on here to sort of mimic the curve of at the front, you know, where I put the curve sort of on this front piece at the bottom in the centre. I've sort of added that curve on the cuff because I just felt it sort of needed it, and I'm sort of toying with maybe putting a button or something there to match the buttons on the front. Not sure yet, and I'm not sure on my choice of buttons yet. I am, if the rain ever stops, I am going to try and go down to the little sewing shop. So there's not a lot of choice, but I'll have to see if there's anything that might do the job. I'm really pleased I found these buttons at the local sewing shop, and I think they look perfect. The colour is good and they've got a hint of vintage, so pleased with that. I think they're better than the gold. I think they're a bit more wearable, to be honest. I put the jacket on, and what I've done on the darts on the front is they're quite big darts, and I remember when I did a sort of a pattern drafting sewing course many years ago now, and I seem to remember in my head somebody saying that the dart should not be any more than sort of 3 centimetres of fabric that's been taken in. Well, these are 4 centimetres, so they're sort of like they're stitched there's a 2 centimetre sort of dart, if you like, and it's too wide. What it's doing is pulling the fabric a little bit on the side, and I'm not happy with that. So even though it's finished, what I'm going to do is just unpick these darts and make those darts a little bit smaller, and then the plan, I think, is to do
either side of that dart, do another very tiny little dart, which would give me sort of 3 lines. I thought I'd do the centre one as a long line, and then the 2 either side of it to be a sort of a little shorter line with a little bit of the extra fabric nipped out there. Because it would have the 3 lines, it would actually match the 3 lines that's sort of on the skirt. It's got like 3 lines in that sort of waterfall effect. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm actually just unpicking this and just sort of fixing that. Pin that, stitch it, unpick it, alter it, put in the new darts. But after I have done this, finished this, got the buttons, done the buttonholes, then it will be time for the reveal. And this will be the reveal of the full Carmen outfit. The skirt, the top and the jacket.